Hundreds of thousands of tons of natural gas are leaking into the Baltic Sea after the sabotage of the Nord Stream gas pipeline. And all fingers are pointing at Vladimir Putin. The Russian president stands accused of blowing up the underwater gas link between Russia and Germany with 2 explosions. It looks like another desperate throw of the dice as his armed forces take heavy losses in Ukraine and face the possibility of defeat. But conspiracy theories abound, questioning who is really to blame for the blasts. Here, we examine what Putin could gain by sabotaging the pipeline. Russia and Western Europe have been locked in economic warfare since Putin invaded Ukraine in late February, sending the price of gas skyrocketing. The Kremlin relies heavily on oil and gas revenues, and before the war, the EU depended on Russia to deliver 45% of its natural gas that was used for energy and heating. In recent months, Russia has been reducing the amount of gas it supplies Europe, pushing up prices and causing inflation across the world.
The reason why gas prices are up is because of Russia. Russia.
At the start of the war, Russia had 3 gas pipelines into Western Europe. The Kremlin shut off the Yamal pipeline into Poland and Bulgaria in April after both countries refused Putin's demand to pay in rubles. The Nord Stream pipeline is out of action, possibly for years, after this week's sabotage. That leaves the last pipeline that flows from Siberia through Ukraine. Hours after the explosion, Russian state gas company Gazprom threatened to shut off this supply as well. Now, prices have rocketed by at least 19%. In the weeks before, they had been falling as European countries said they had built up enough supplies for the winter ahead. Economists estimate that with higher prices, Russia can afford to keep its gas exports at just 20% of normal levels for 3 years. So, even though the sabotage reduces Putin's capacity to export gas, it could still boost the Kremlin's coffers. However, there is almost certainly more to it than that. The attack on Nord Stream also happened on the same day a new gas pipeline from Norway to Poland via Denmark was opened. The explosions were just a few kilometres from Danish waters and very close to the route of the new pipe. Analysts fear that the attack is Putin's warning to NATO that he is willing and capable of escalating his attacks to target Western infrastructure. The North and Baltic Seas are crisscrossed with pipelines and internet cables, and any attacks could cause economic chaos. As the war in Ukraine goes increasingly badly for Russia, the Kremlin has already threatened to use nuclear weapons to defend its so-called territorial integrity. That nuclear threat was aimed squarely at NATO, who Russia falsely accuses of leading Ukraine's troops to success on the battlefield. With the twin threats of nuclear war and attacks on European infrastructure, Putin will hope to sow more discord among NATO allies and weaken their resolve to support Kyiv. If he can divide Western nations, then victory in his war against Ukraine could be back within Putin's grasp. And there is one last theory as to why Putin might want to blow up Nord Stream. If the Russian president has to admit defeat in Ukraine, analysts have speculated that he could face an attempted coup. There have been rumours of discontent in his inner circle for months, and any new leader could restart gas deliveries to the West to ease global tensions. By destroying the pipe, Putin takes that option off the table for years at least, in turn reducing the incentives for any of his rivals looking to topple him. Whether or not this is the case, and experts say it is unlikely, Russia has always thrived on creating chaos and doubt within the West. NATO looks unlikely to directly blame Russia for the attack, both to avoid escalating tensions and to keep its underwater surveillance networks a secret. But what we do know is that the Russian armed forces have a number of ways they could have pulled off the sabotage. The attack happened just 70 metres underwater, meaning it would be relatively simple for divers to carry it out. The Russian Navy could have delivered divers by submarine, or it has a number of spy subs designed to tap undersea cables that could easily have mined the pipe. In addition, the Kremlin has underwater drones that could have carried out the attack, or it could have dropped mines from a disguised surface vessel. Lastly, Russia could have sent a device called a PIG, a pipeline integrity gauge, laden with explosives down the Nord Stream after inserting it from its end. Whatever the method, Europe will now be beefing up security around its oil rigs and undersea pipelines as the Ukraine conflict enters a new stage.